I'm here today with a 2025 Cadillac Escalade IQ, Cadillac's all-electric version of its very popular land yacht. This vehicle has a battery with a total capacity of greater than 200 kilowatt hour and an estimated driving range of 460 miles. But that's its combined estimated driving range. What we're going to do here today is find out how far the Cadillac Escalade IQ will go from 100% charge down to zero at a constant 70 miles an hour. Let's get into it. All right, now I'm out on the New Jersey Turnpike cruising along at 70 miles an hour in the beginning of what will be a very long day. The Cadillac Escalade IQ, all versions of it, and there's 4 different versions that Cadillac is selling now. 2 are luxury and 2 are sport. I have the sport premium version here, the top of the line one. They're all estimated range of 465 miles. That's Cadillac's estimated range. They're not listed yet on the EPA's website, but typically when automakers give their estimated range right before a vehicle gets certified, that means it's going to be certified at that range. So 465 miles at 70 miles an hour, it's a long day for me. We're talking a solid 7-hour day probably out here on the turnpike, because I'm sure at some point I'm going to have to stop. So let's talk a little bit about the vehicle first. 750 horsepower, 785 pound-feet of torque. It's the most powerful Cadillac Escalade that you can buy. Now, the gasoline version, the Cadillac Escalade V Series, is slightly faster than this, even though it's not as powerful, and that's because it weighs like 3,000 pounds less. The Escalade IQ weighs around 9,000 pounds, and the Cadillac Escalade V Series, I think it weighs like 62 or 6,300 pounds, so it's nearly a ton and a half more, this vehicle. So even though it's got more horsepower, more torque, it's slightly slower if they were to drag race. But the gasoline version has General Motors' 6.2 liter motor, which, if you're following the news at all, has an enormous problem. GM's recalling almost 1 million of them, like 900,000 of them. They're all having, or many of them are having catastrophic failures. I actually know 2 people that own GM vehicles with that 6.2 liter engine, that the vehicles was less than a year old and the engine blew. So big problem with that. So while the V Series Escalade might beat the IQ in a quarter mile, the engine might blow while it's trying to do it. So anyway, yeah, this is the all-electric version of Cadillac's big SUV, very popular. These sell very well. And this is the first time they're putting out an all-electric version of one with amazing range, 465 miles. But it has that General Motors huge battery pack, basically the same battery pack that they use in the Hummer EV and also the Silverado EV and the Denali pickup truck. It's rated at more than 200 kilowatt hour. GM's a little cagey with telling us exactly how many kilowatt hour is in the battery pack. I've seen them post that it's 205 kilowatt hour. I've done quite a few range tests with these vehicles that have this large battery pack, and I've always been able to pull more than 210 kilowatt hour out of the pack for that range test, and I expect to do that here today. Somewhere between 210, 215 kilowatt hour I should end up the range test with. And the good thing about GM vehicles is, I like this a lot, they show you the total energy used on the screen during that trip. So we'll see what the vehicle is reporting was the amount of kilowatt hour used during this whole range test here today. Okay, so let's go over some of the things I go over with all my range tests so people know everything's fair. First thing I always do is set the tires to the manufactured suggested tire pressure. And the Escalade IQ has enormous 24-inch wheels with 275/50 R24 tires. They're Michelin Primacy tires. The front tires are supposed to be set, or are set, at 61 pounds. The rear tires are 71 pounds. I had to double check to make sure that was correct. So there's a staggered pressure for the tires, even though they're the same size tires. But 71 pounds and 61 pounds, man, that's just about the highest tire pressure I've ever seen on a passenger vehicle. But it's set right on, so we know that the tire pressure is correct. We always put the vehicle in the most efficient driving mode, which in the case of the GM vehicles and the Escalade is Tour. There's a Tour driving mode, a Sport driving mode, snow and ice, tow and haul, and then there's also a My mode that lets you configure the driving mode the way you'd like it. But we have it here in touring mode because that's the most efficient driving mode. I always set the climate control to right around 70 degrees, whatever is going to keep me comfortable, and on the lowest fan setting, I've done that here. And I always check the speedometer with my GPS apps. The speedometer was just 1 mile off, driving at 70 miles an hour, so I have the Super Cruise set at 71 miles an hour. I'm going to use the Super Cruise as much as I can for this day. It's going to be a really long driving day, so I will take advantage of GM's hands-free Super Cruise. Okay, that's pretty much the lowdown. I'm going to continue driving here. I'll check in when we're at 75% state of charge, when we've gone a quarter of the range test, and we'll see where we're at. State of Charge is powered by Qmerit, North America's premier installer of electric vehicle charging equipment. After I've helped you decide which charger to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and have Qmerit install it. And if you do follow that link, Qmerit will waive the $150 installation deposit. But this is an exclusive offer for State of Charge followers. So in order to get that offer, you must follow the link in the description of my videos. All right, we're at 75% state of charge. 25% of the range test is over. And boy, did that take a long time, man. This is going to be a long day. Anyway, we went 120.7 miles in that leg. We used 55.9 kilowatt hour, and we have a consumption rate of 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. So the big thing here is the 55.9 kilowatt hour used. That doesn't track with what GM reports as its battery size at all. That would actually give us more than 220 kilowatt hour on this range test here today if I'm able to repeat that in each section, which typically doesn't happen. Sometimes it does, but it typically, the amount of energy used for each quarter changes. I know when I did the Silverado EV range test recently, which has basically the same battery, I think I pulled about 214 kilowatt hour out of that, and it went 441 miles. But we're on a pace here to go 480 miles. I didn't see that. I still don't think that's going to hold up for the whole trip, but we'll see. You never know. I've certainly been wrong before, but we're tracking 480 miles at this point, 15 miles more than GM stated EPA combined range rating, and that's the combined range rating, not the highway range rating, which would be lower than that. So good start for the Escalade IQ. I'm really also loving this 55-inch display screen here. Now the far right side isn't turned on because that only works when there's a passenger sitting in the passenger seat, but this pillar-to-pillar display screen is enormous, 55 inches long. It reminds me of the Byton M-Byte. I don't know if you remember that company that started, that Chinese company Byton. They went out of business, and they had that big, huge screen across the whole front. Now their screen was taller, and it was only, I think, 48 inches wide. But this is kind of like a mixture between that and Mercedes Hyperscreen, I guess. But this thing is huge, crisp and clear, and pretty responsive too. I've been playing around with the buttons and everything's pretty snappy and responsive here. GM's definitely getting better with their user infotainment and interaction systems. So, okay, the only other thing I want to talk about a little bit is the sunroof. Now, it was in the mid 70s when we began the test here today in New Jersey. It's going to go up into the upper 80s by the end of the test. And I would love to be able to close this sunscreen, but you can't close it. I'm surprised with this top of the line Escalade. There's no sunscreen that you can press a button and have it close. The sticker price on this vehicle here is $160,000. It's got all the options. It's got the executive seating in the back, which is another $7,500 option. The Escalade IQ starts at like $130. It starts at $130. It's a little bit more than comparable gasoline version Escalades, although the V Series Escalade, the gasoline one, that one costs on par with what this costs. It's almost the same sticker price, and feature to feature, they're very close. So it's not, if you get the top line, top trim Escalade IQ like I have here, it's very similar to the Escalade V Series price wise, and even what you get. But for that price, I would think you'd almost get an electrochromatic roof. Press a button like Porsche has, and it automatically dims. That would be a really nice feature for here, because I'm worrying about later on when it's almost 90 degrees and the sun's baking in here, will I have to raise the fan setting and pump more air conditioning in here to keep me cool? That, of course, will use more energy. And another good thing that GM does display the energy breakdown, how much went to propulsion and how much went to climate control. So we'll be able to see that, and I'll monitor that for the whole range test. And at the end, we'll talk about how much was used for climate control versus propulsion. But so far, so good. That's my 25% check-in. We'll see you when the range test is halfway over, and I'm at 50% state of charge. All right, we're at 50% state of charge, and I tell you, after driving more than 3 hours, I'm still super comfortable. This is riding in luxury. The Escalade IQ is one comfortable vehicle. Okay, for the numbers, we had another great section. We actually went a little bit farther, 121.4 miles. So our total miles now is at 242.1 miles. We used 56.1 kilowatt hour in that segment for a total kilowatt hour use of 112. Now that's at 50%, so 224? I've never hit 220 kilowatt hour used on one of these GM vehicles with this super large battery pack. I think the most I've ever seen is like 215, but that's what we're tracking now. Our consumption's still at 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. So rock solid 2.1 the whole time. Nothing seems to waver from that. So, I mean, if I knew how many kilowatt hours in the battery pack for sure, I could tell you how far it would go, but I don't know. We're tracking 224 kilowatt hour. It's only supposed to have 205 kilowatt hour usable energy according to General Motors. It has more, but exactly how much more, I guess we'll find out here today. I'll be really surprised if we hit 220. I have a feeling the next couple of legs, maybe we won't go quite as far, but I don't know, we'll see. The conditions are perfect for me to pull as much energy out of the pack as possible. We're not stressing the pack, and you can typically get a little bit more energy out of it. Just cruising along at 70 miles an hour, it isn't a very stressful use case for the battery pack, and the temperature is perfect. The battery's probably in like the 80 degrees, so and also there's almost no wind today, so this is a perfect opportunity for me to really see how far the Escalade IQ will go in near perfect conditions. And boy, is this Escalade IQ comfortable. The magnetic ride control, the adaptive suspension system works fabulously. It really does. This is like floating on a cloud, and quiet also. GM's done a great job reducing the noise in this Escalade. It's much quieter than, say, the Hummer or the Silverado. Now, those are trucks, so I understand why they might not put as big an emphasis on that, but really good job with this. This is a quiet, comfortable cabin here for sure. And the AKG 40 speaker sound system works really good. Obviously, I can't put it on now while I'm recording video. I'll get a copyright strike, but it's really a good system. I don't even know where they put 40 speakers. I'm gonna try to find them maybe later this week and see if I can identify where the 40 are without cheating. But yeah, this thing has 40 speakers, pretty crazy. All right, well, we're gonna continue driving, and I'll check back in at 25% state of charge. All right, checking in at 25% state of charge, and we have gone 365.1 miles. That's bonkers. So in that leg, we actually went the farthest, 123 miles. We're able to access 55.8 kilowatt hour, which is slightly less than the other segments, just, I mean, you know, tenths of a kilowatt hour less. And now we have a total amount of accessed kilowatt hour that we've used on this range test so far of 167.8 kilowatt hour with a steady 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour consumption rate. So we are still tracking 480 miles and being able to access over 220 kilowatt hour. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in this final 25%, but I did not expect to be able to access over 220 kilowatt hour. So we'll see what happens. Anything can happen in this last leg, but that's what we're tracking, and it's been deadly accurate and consistent the whole trip so far. The range estimator, each segment is just about 120 miles. Each segment, the vehicle's reporting that we've used just about 56 kilowatt hour. So, you know, does the Cadillac Escalade IQ have 220 kilowatt hour of usable capacity, more so than what I was ever able to pull out of any of the other GM vehicles with the same battery pack? Perhaps. We're going to find out soon. So my last check-in will be when I'm just a couple miles from ending the range test. I'll turn the cameras on and we'll drive that last couple of miles, and then we'll do the wrap-up then. See you then. All right, well, I just pulled off the turnpike. We're on the final about a mile and a half to the charger. Looks like we're going to end up with probably 1% state of charge, because I'm at 1% state of charge now, but I've been getting nearly 5 miles for every percent, and I think I've only driven about a mile or so on 1% now. So we might end the range test with like 2 miles left in the tank. But I can't always time it perfectly, and I don't like to just drive around at the end of the range test at a really low speed just to get it to zero. The whole idea of this is driving at 70 miles an hour as long as you can. And, you know, you can't do it from start to finish. At some point I have to get on and off the highway. But once I get off the highway, I kind of want to drive right to the charger, which is what we're doing now. So, yeah, the Escalade IQ beat my predictions for sure. I thought I was going to get around 450. I thought we would do a little bit less than EPA, than what Cadillac says the EPA will be of 465. We crushed it, man. This also was a model of consistency. Each quarter of the range test was almost identical as far as consumption and kilowatt hour used and range. Now this last section from 25% down to zero is going to be a little bit less, because I'm not going to drive it to zero till it hits zero. It looks like we'll probably end with about 3 miles on the tank, but I'm looking at the total energy used now, and it's making me giggle. 222.2 kilowatt hours so far we've used, and there's still like 1 or 2 kilowatt hour left in the tank. So that's just nuts. This is the most I've ever been able to pull out of one of the GM Ultium large battery packs. It's a lot more than I've ever been able to pull out too. It's not like 1 or 2 kilowatt hour more. It's like almost 10 kilowatt hour more than what I got out of the Hummer or the Silverado or the Denali. And these are all new vehicles also. So it wasn't like the packs degraded. I don't know, did GM do something and there's more energy in them now? Or it's weird. And before you say, well, that's maybe because of the regen, maybe you had more regen. Is this my exit? No, this one isn't my exit. Maybe you had more regen in this specific range test. That's not how it works. With the regen, what it'll do is it'll subtract from the total used energy. So let's say I had used 18 kilowatt hour and I did a heavy regen, it would drop down to like 17.9 kilowatt hour. It's not like you get extra kilowatt hour. You're just recouping what you've already used. So that it's not because of that, I'm certain. And I even talked to GM about that. So I'm 100% certain that's not the case. This is what I was able to pull out of the pack. So we've already driven 482 miles, and we've got like just about a half a mile or a quarter mile more to go. There's some construction here, and the entrance I usually go in was closed, so I'm spinning around. But I'm still at 1% state of charge, and I tell you, what a comfortable ride this has been. I mean, I've been in the car almost 8 hours now. I did make a stop between the 25% state of charge point and now, because I had to make a bathroom break. I thought I could do the whole thing. I did it up to there. I didn't stop, but I did have to stop at one of the rest areas and use the facilities really quick and just grab a quick coffee, because I've been at it all day now, and it's tiring driving 500 miles. You know, I've driven more than 500 miles today when you count that I had to drive to the charging station, top off and everything. So it's been a long day. Okay, and we have a fireworks TNT tent here, so you can buy fireworks in the parking lot here. And the Electrify America chargers are over there. It looks like we're going to end up with 482, maybe 0.2 miles. And that beep, 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 beep you heard is the GoPro just overheated. The GoPro has been in the car too long. So we're going to have to switch over to this view, because the GoPro just died. I tell you, I love the GoPros, but they overheat. They really can't take the heat at all. And I even have it shaded in here, but it just beeped and died out on me. So, okay, there are available chargers. So let me spin this around. I'll back in, and then we'll do the recap. Wow. Three BMW iXs here. That's interesting. 3 iXs. I don't think I've ever had 3 iXs at one charger when I've pulled up. Let me back in here. I'll park right next to this one iX. And let me straighten it out a little. This thing is a boat. It's actually slightly bigger than the combustion, slightly longer. I think like an inch longer than the combustion Escalade is. All right, park. Let's take a picture of the final results. And there we have it. 482.2 miles, 222.7 kilowatt hour used, and I still have 1% state of charge. So I probably could have squeezed that out to 223 or 224 kilowatt hour. Oh yeah, and one last thing I want to point out too is the breakdown of where the energy went. So driving used 96%. We used 214.9 kilowatt hour. So we went that distance, 482 miles, on 215 kilowatt hour. And we had 7.8 kilowatt hour went to the climate control. So I've had it on the whole time, the air conditioning. It's been a warm day here. So we're up to 89 degrees now. It was in the 70s when we started. I had it on only very low early on, but the last maybe 3 hours, I've had to up it up a little bit and lower the temperature. And I even put the fan up on too for a little while, because it was starting to get hot in here. There's a lot of space to cool off. And I only have it on here, the driver's side. Passenger side's off, the climate control in the rear is off. I didn't put on the air conditioning seats, which now that we're done, I'm going to put on now. Let me see here. Air conditioned seat, nice. And you know, while I'm at it, massage. Okay, what should I do? Roll, knead, wave, relief, or glide? I guess I'll do relief. I need relief. I've been driving this thing long. Okay, that feels good. So yeah, let me take a look at our stats. And now let's do a quick overview of what went on with the range test today. Okay, in the first leg, from 100% down to 75%, we went 120.7 miles and we used 55.9 kilowatt hour. We were averaging 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. From 75% down to 50%, we went 121.4 miles So we were at 242.1 miles driven at the halfway point, and in that segment we used 56.1 kilowatt hour for a total of 112 kilowatt hour, and again 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. In that third leg, from 50% down to 25%, we went 123 miles, and we were at 365.1 miles driven. We used 55.8 kilowatt hour, and at that point we had used a total of 167.8 kilowatt hour. From 25% down to zero, where we just finished up, we drove 117.1 miles for a total of 482.2 miles. We used 54.9 kilowatt hour in that segment, and that squares with the fact that we're at 1% state of charge. We definitely have 1 kilowatt hour left in there, maybe even 2. I'm sure we could have eked out another 5 or 6 miles if I really drove it till it stopped running. The total amount of kilowatt hour we accessed for this range test was 222.7, again 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. So the final results of the 2025 Cadillac Escalade IQ 70-mile-an-hour highway range test is 482.2 miles. We used 222.7 kilowatt hour and a consumption rating of 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. But don't forget, we ended with 1% state of charge. So we really could have squeaked out another 5 miles if I were able to time it so I could drive at 70 miles an hour and not just run out, which would have happened. This was the best I could do. It came close. 1% isn't too bad, considering I have to really time what exit to get off at and when I'm gonna make my turnaround and head back and turn around again. Towards the end of the range test, the loops get smaller and smaller. In the beginning, I drive like an 80-mile loop up and down, and then they keep getting smaller as I'm trying to calculate how I could end up at the charger just at the right time. Got pretty close here. Wasn't able to completely exhaust the battery, but I think you get the point. What a range monster. This thing, can go 500 miles per charge. If I would have just used the kilowatt hour that we used for climate control, if I had climate control turned off on this whole trip and just sweat it out the whole time, we would have went over 500 miles. That's nuts. And I thought that the Lucid Gravity, which is going to have an EPA range rating of 460, only 5 miles lower than this. I think it was 460, but very close to what the Escalade IQ is. I thought there'd be a contest on the longest range SUV. That's not going to be a contest. The Gravity's not going to approach this type of range. It only has like 123 kilowatt hour battery pack. It would have to average 5 miles per kilowatt hour. It's a super efficient vehicle. And just think about that. The fact that the battery is like half the size of this battery, and we're even talking about whether or not it could compete range-wise with this, tells you how efficient that Lucid is. This isn't efficient. 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. Thing weighs 9,000 pounds. It's not even allowed on some of the roads by my house. I can't even drive down some of the roads when I go home. Chances are I wouldn't get pulled over or anything, but technically I'm not allowed on those roads because there's a 4-ton weight limit on a whole bunch of the roads that lead to my house and where there's bridges and things. So I've got to be careful when I drive home. So GM kills it with kilowatt hour, not through efficiency. And hey, people want long-range EVs. These big, large SUVs are super popular here in the US. You see them everywhere. I'm in the Walmart parking lot now. I can see giant SUVs all over the place. It's what the American consumer wants, and they want long range. GM gave it to them. So it's not for everybody, for sure. I know there's probably going to be comments on this video of people saying, oh, what a waste, how efficient, and you don't need a big vehicle like that. And you're right, you don't need it, but some people want it. And if they have the money, why not let them buy it? So, all right, well, that's it for our range test here today. Fantastic showing for the Cadillac Escalade. I'm going to go home and get some sleep. I've been driving all day here, and luckily I started early this morning, so there's still a little bit of daylight left, but super showing, almost 500 miles at 70 miles an hour. So good job, GM. And this is just a great cruiser. This might be the vehicle I would choose to drive cross country if you just gave me one, because unbelievably comfortable, ridiculous range. I mean, think about that. You could drive 400 miles at highway speeds and pull over to charge, and you're still going to be at like 10%. Like, you're not going to be scraping the end of the battery. You could drive 400 miles comfortably and still not have any range anxiety. So what a beast it really is. But well, that's all we have here today. Listen, if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.